Welcome to Living with Purpose, our podcast, which is a short format podcast where we talk about how individuals and organizations are showing up with purpose. To our listeners, I'm here at the headquarters of Goonj talking to Anshu Gupta, who has founded what I think is one of the more important organizations of our time, where he is completely rethinking how we talk about sustainability and dignity for people. And cloth becomes the driver in this story, but it's gone beyond cloth to a complete rethinking of how we live, how we use materials, and how we reuse materials. So I'm here to talk to Anshu, and I'm going to start off by asking you if you can share with us one golden nugget that you live your life with, you can share with our audience.
Thank you, Akhtar, for coming and for this conversation. I think my realization in life happened in, I would say, 98. I mean, before that, all these stories happened, and I was still in a corporate job. When I decided to leave and didn't know what to do because there was no background of voluntary organization or NGO or problem, and you can solve it. All those, today you can write a book, but I remember what it was that time. And Meenakshi has joined BBC that time, and I was leaving a Scots. And I remember a very basic calculation. And I said that the institution where I studied, I just paid a few thousand rupees. Okay, IMC, Minister of Mass Communication. And then I said that the kind of facility, faculty, everything we had, ideally this fees would have been at least 40, 50,000 or maybe 100,000 rupees that time. The second question I asked myself that if this was even 30, 40K or even 25K, was it possible for my parents to pay? Largely the answer was no.
Yeah.
Okay. Or the answer was that they would have done it because for them it was education for the key purpose in their life, and but it would have been very, very tough. That was the day when I realized that I am the biggest product of subsidy of this country. Okay. So in a way, every single person who goes to a government school, college in India, IIT, IIM, anywhere and everywhere, actually has eaten up the subsidy. Even when you study in the private institutions, if I talk about my country and across the globe in most of the countries, you eat up subsidy because the kind of facilities and tax rebates you're given for the education. So it's up to me whether I take it as a debt or I take it as my right. I'm not debating whether we should have a right on subsidy or not, but I do know that millions of people are still in the phase where they can't pay back. I'm privileged enough to pay back. Now it's up to me. Whether it's a karja. So I every morning when I get up, I know that it's a debt and I need to pay back in whatever way I can. And a very important part, what I realized in life and then reaffirmed in 2020 when you saw the COVID thing across the globe, that subsidy is never ever given by any government or any rich person. Subsidy literally comes from the farmers, from the laborers, because like in India, farming is one of the biggest profession which does not have a minimum wages law. And if you put the law of minimum wages in the farming sector, people like us will not be able to touch even rice. So they are the one who are subsidizing us. We go back and give them 10 kg of rice and call them beneficiaries without understanding that we are the constant beneficiary.
So this is so let me just sum up this nugget. Realizing that every single one of us has benefited because we have kept those folks that provide us with the most basic need out of the economic equation. Anshu, thank you very much for that. So let's talk a little bit about purpose. I consider purpose to be that renewable source of energy that keeps humanity going forward. I want to just have you talk a little bit about how do you show up with purpose?
One is that we found a way to do something which we didn't know. And often I tell people that we didn't do anything on Goonj. Goonj happened to us. Something happens. And as in Hindi we say कि दो तरीके हैं देखने के, या तो देखो और घूर के देखो. Either you see it or you observe it. So maybe we are observing it. And that's how you found something, some way forward. And you thought that this entire second-hand goods in the society, underutilized or overutilized, unsold, whole lot of things. I mean, ultimately, these goods also have a life. I mean, if the living being dies at whatever age you want, but why should this t-shirt go to a landfill if it still has a life, and you have millions of people who can be benefited by this, right? If I keep doing charity, I will keep killing dignity of people. But if people start earning it, it's an economic model, and it's a huge solution to a whole lot of, from climate crisis to circularity to the landfills and all that. And it all evolved. It all evolved. And I believe once you find a formula and you make sure that you don't just stick to that, but you keep working on that, keep refining on that, keep learning that, the purpose of the dream goes
Much further.
much further, much deeper, beyond imagination. I mean, what you don't know. So, like in my life, I always say that villages are my universities. Not only IMC, but villages are my university, because that is where you learn from people that in the limited resources, how you live life. Even when you don't get a meal, you have the courage to sing a song while sleeping because that makes you happy. And I believe a lot of people, when we tell people, we say that, listen, we are not in the business of distributing material. हम लोग खुशियां बांटने का काम. We make sure that people are happy, and that should be our purpose. And that how you keep yourself happy, how you keep people happy, and how you respect people for what they are. I mean, a lot of people these days keep telling us that Goonj gives dignity to people, and you feel good about it for sure if someone is praising. But then you question that, can we really give dignity to someone? No. Or you're born with dignity or self-respect. It's a part of a soul.
Yeah.
The society tells you that you are black or white or rich or poor or you know short or tall or whatever. I mean, society keeps robbing you dignity.
Yeah.
If you start respecting people as it is for what they are to start with, everything else is acquired, and acquired things remain there, go, grow,
No.
you lose. You don't know.
So this is again the key point that is being made is authenticity. That every single person to show up as their authentic self
Yes.
in the way they have been made. And that then enriches everybody, and then dignity flows. Let me come back to this conversation we had when you visited us in Seattle on cloth. I never thought about cloth as the center of dignity. Can you just share a little bit about your realization around cloth and how that has perpetuated you to do what you're doing today?
I think the concept of cloth, to be honest, in our life started with the issue of clothing during winters. Okay. And that just opened up and just still opening up in a big way. Because we realize that more people die in winters due to lack of clothing than earthquake or floods. Because if in the same temperature I survive and someone else dies, it's actually not cold or something. It's largely lack of clothing. And those are the stories in life happen. But then you also started understanding that how this has never become an issue. I mean, globally in our time, we used to talk about three basic needs of humankind, and we used to say roti, kapda, makan, food, cloth, and shelter. And then we realized that clothing is actually not a subject, unfortunately. And it so happens that with a piece of cloth, what you're wearing, people start judging you. People start thinking about you, whether you are poor or you're rich, you are literate or illiterate, right? You're upper caste or lower caste. Even whether you're cultured or not cultured. In the best possible clothes, you can mess up life. And in the, say, torn clothes, people might be the best possible people, right? But you're judging on the piece of cloth. I mean, you must have seen it in your life also that the moment a person who is not wearing good clothes, and ironically, that person also does not have a right to call it a good cloth. It is me who will decide whether you are wearing a good cloth or not.
Yeah.
Imagine. So if someone is wearing torn clothes, dirty clothes, what I feel dirty, if that person comes and stand next to you, first thing which you do is you try to save your mobile and wallet.
Yes.
Hmm? And the biggest thief in the world, who must have fudged millions, will in a suit will stand next to you, and you have no issues. So how do you really do that? All this we saw, all this we observed, all this we felt, that how a simple piece of cloth unfortunately define you. and how you start judging, misjudging people with that thing, and how it is an absolute ignored subject, and how you wait for a disaster to do something in terms of clothing or material. So, I mean, I really don't know. And often in joke, I always say that you actually need a flood to be flooded with clothes.
Correct.
You
Correct.
know, and why are you holding so much? So, like in India, also we have seen these days that if you give, and this is an example I must have given 1,000 times, that you give your red suit, ladies' suit, as we say, to your house help, and she says no, or she doesn't like it. Suppose the first comment, look at the way things are changing now. These people have also conditions or nakhras, as in Hindi we say, without understanding that that person hates red color, right? And that person has a right to hate that color. No, not like that color. Not like that color. You know. Till the time you were wearing, she had no say. She used to hate it, but she couldn't say anything. But now, if you're forcing her to wear that, let her have her own choice. I mean, I remember in winters, in earlier days of Goonj, very silently, I had this, we had this Maruti 800. So me, Meenakshi, our little daughter, very little daughter, Urvi that time, and one or two volunteers or so, we used to just go across the roads between 10 and 1 in the night. In the car boot, we used to have some woolens and all that stuff. So in All India Medical Institute was because patients come from all across, and same day they don't get place to stay, and often they spend time in the night and they're not prepared for the day's winter. So we were there at around 12 o'clock, and the boot was opened, and then there's this lady. She comes and she starts looking for something. Normally, what happens is that you ask them to be away. And all that. And we kept observing her, and then they asked her, "Kyama, what are you looking for?" So she says that, "Beta, my son, give me a black sweater or a shawl, right, at 12 in the night." And then you ask her, black, one way to deal with it is that we are doing this good and you're asking for black. What is this nonsense? People are dying of cold and you're asking for black. The other way of doing is, and maybe, because it was a learning phase for us, and we asked her, "Amma, why do you need black only? I mean, we don't know whether we have a black, but why do you need black?" And I still remember, I mean, of course, we never met her again, unfortunately. She actually said that, "Beta, I have a red sari and I know black will look very nice." Can you imagine at 12 in the night, someone is trying to fulfill her dream, maybe for pending for last 20 years when we saw some movie and loved a character there. And she has a right to do that. Correct. I mean, that is the biggest problem with the charity, that charity does not give choice. Charity is largely imposed.
So again, this is just fascinating, right? That how do you think about purpose? That every individual has a purpose in life, and one should let them decide how they want to flourish and not impose our own obligations on them. Anshu, one last thought for you. If you had to give one piece of advice to the audience, what would you say? No, I would say that we all know that we have got only one life, and COVID has taught us very well about it, that we don't even know till when, right? And living is not just about living myself and in isolation, because I'm a part of the larger society. And I believe that doing good is a collective responsibility, because we all want to live in a good world, right? And the important part is that when you do something for someone, let's not do it for the photographs or social media, because at the end of the day, we are doing it for ourselves. Whatever we're doing. I mean, a lot of people talk about planet and they say, save the planet, without understanding that planet is there for centuries, or I don't know, for whatever time. It is we who go away and then something new comes up. But the planet is intact. So when you say save the planet, just think about it and be a little bit selfish, that you are actually saving yourself by doing, good to the planet, and not actually good, but what the planet deserves, because we all deserve a good life, right? So be kind to ourselves and planet will be saved automatically. That's a fantastic way to end, right? Be kind to yourself. And just being kind to yourself, you're going to be kind to the planet and kind to everybody else. Anshu, thank you so much for this conversation. Go learn about Goonj at going to goonj.org and find out the amazing work that they're doing. And if each of you can observe from what they are doing and implement it for yourself, we will all be kind. Thank you very much. And again, tune in to another episode of Living with Purpose and join us on the www.purpose.mindset.org and share how you are living a life with purpose.
Does your company have a story to tell about purpose? Become a part of our book series. Visit onegoldennugget.com/living with purpose.